Trade, Commerce, and Tourism Committee. I'm Councilwoman Janice Hahn, and I'm joined by Councilmember Bill Rosendahl. Councilmember LaBonge, I believe, is on his way. He had an appointment, a meeting this morning. It's Denim Day in LA, which is why I'm wearing a pair of jeans, just in case anybody was wondering. Okay. Why don't we were thinking that maybe since all three of these items are very similar, that we might just kind of take them all up.
Sure.
And have reports and ask questions afterwards.
Should I introduce them all?
Sure.
Item 1, motion Rosendahl Hahn, request John White, City Clerk. Motion requesting that the Board of Airport Commissioners direct the Los Angeles World Airports to develop a timeline and plan for implementing the additional mitigation measures outlined on Exhibit A of the LAX Stipulated Settlement Agreement. Item 2, LAWA 2007, annual progress reports relative to the LAX Master Plan Mitigation Monitoring and Reporting Program, Traffic Generation, and Aviation Activity Analysis. Item 3, LAWA 2007, annual progress report relative to the implementation of the LAX Master Plan Community Benefits Agreement.
Does that
Great.
sound good?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, why don't we have the airport come on up and speak to us, and then I'm sure
A few questions.
Councilmember Rosendahl and I will have a few questions, and we also have a couple members of the public that want to speak. Remember, anybody here wishing to address us on any of these items, go ahead and fill a card up, and we'll call you up in a bit.
Let me, Roger Johnson, Deputy Executive Director, Los Angeles World Airports.
Good morning,
I have.
Roger.
Good morning.
Morning.
I have with me Intisar Durham, who's our Chief Airport Engineer, who's overseeing the mitigation compliance measures, and also Joyce Schloss, who works in our small business and jobs, who will talk about some of our progress on small business and jobs. Pat Tomchek, our Senior Traffic Engineer, is also here if there are any questions related to any of the traffic mitigation measures. I'd like to start on item number 1. We are in the process of pulling together a very comprehensive capital improvement program list that lays out all of our commitments, including the commitments within the stipulated settlement agreement, the MMRP, and the community benefits agreement. We hope to have that to go to the board, our last board meeting in June. So we'll have everything laid out with pretty well identified costing and cash flow issues, as well as the timelines on that. So we hope to have that going to our board by June. So we're working very diligently to get that done as part of our overall capital program, so as it does not get lost. So we do not have that to present to you today, but we will have it done in the next couple of months. So, and with that, if there's any questions, I'd like to turn it over to Intisar. I know a copy of our annual report was sent on the mitigation monitoring and reporting program, so I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Durham, if I could.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I wish we got the memo on the west side regarding the
The
denim.
Denim Day, I know.
You and me both. I mean, I should have
See,
known.
that's what I said on the west side. It's just we missed
I know. I put it on my calendar. Every
Nope,
year I
wow.
look forward to this day.
Good meeting, Denny. See you guys.
Okay. Well, good to see you again, and we're really very happy to report
Okay.
to report to you again on the progress that we have made in 2007 regarding all of our mitigations. And since we've been here before, you know that under the 3 agreements that the airport has at hand in connection with the LAX master plan, we have almost close to 200 mitigation measures that are applicable to the program as a whole. These 200 mitigation measures are very much the same. They are similar between the settlement, the mitigation reporting program, as well as the community benefits agreement. I could give you a brief update on as a highlight. and then leave it out for questions. And Joyce could do all of the job training and the first source hiring program if you like.
Would you like to just ask questions?
Yeah, I'd
Maybe
rather
that's-
just ask
Why don't we do
questions.
that?
That sounds
Why don't we do
And,
that?
the community, I know, wants to also ask some questions, so why don't I just go forward then, if it's okay?
Right.
All right, let's just start with the first item, okay?
Okay.
And the questions on that is, what is the status of soundproofing money for the Lenox Public Schools?
The Lenox Public Schools, as I think we've reported in the past, right now we have a determination from the FAA that LAWA cannot legally give money to Lenox or Inglewood School District because we have avigation easements that were awarded as part of a lawsuit that was settled in the early 80s. There are actually two bills in the House and in the Senate right now. There is the FAA reauthorization bill, which includes a part of that bill would actually authorize LAWA to
Right.
collect PFCs. That bill, as you probably know, is stalled in the Senate. The House is waiting to see whether or not it actually dies in the Senate. At the same time, there's a standalone bill now that's been introduced to the House specific to Lenox and Inglewood school districts.
Right.
However, our understanding is that the House does not want to carry that forward until it's obvious that the FAA reauthorization bill is dead. So we're monitoring it to see what's going on, but right now that's the status of
I
it.
really appreciate you knowing that moment in time, because last week I met with Laura Richardson, who is a new player and an important player for us, being on the Aviation Subcommittee, Transportation Committee, and she truly gets the issues of where we need to go.
Yeah.
Of course, something created in the 80s and so on, you know, it's a bad day for those people in Lenox, and they need to get that support. So keep close monitor. The only thing I do know differently today than I did 10 days ago was with the American Airlines business, it has stirred up the capital a little bit more, and it's possible the FAA reauthorization issue might actually go forward.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's 50-50 or what, but there is that notion right now. And
Yeah.
monitoring it like you are is the key strategy
Yeah.
on it. Okay. The only conclusion I want to make is once something happens, we need to move quickly.
Right.
That's all. Okay. Second question: what is the status on studying a flyaway bus from Anaheim to LAX, Ontario, and an LAX shuttle link between LA, Ontario, and the Metrolink station? Now, the flyaway, frankly, I don't think has any value right now because there aren't enough nonstop, direct, frequent, discounted flights out of Ontario. So it's a joke. It would be an empty bus. But where are we on the development of that? But more importantly, how about the shuttle link between the LA, Ontario, and the Metrolink stations? Any of that kind of?
Yeah, we are. What we're working on right now, as again, since December 20th, under the reorganization, I've taken over all of our strategic and transportation planning, and we've engaged a consultant to come on board and help me pull together a programmatic kind of a foundational approach to doing this. And we have met with your staff and we've talked about the shuttles and we've included that in there. So we're reevaluating all of the sites that we've looked at and we're looking at some additional new sites. So
Let me jump in here on just on this, the flyaway one, harbor area. You know, I still feel like this would be a great mitigation, not only for LAX, but certainly for the port, particularly as they're building a new cruise. They're looking to build a new cruise terminal. They're issuing an EIR right now. I just feel like the connection between LAX and the cruise industry is huge, and if you can see the number of vehicles that travel from LAX to the harbor on those cruise days, I would think we could reduce a tremendous amount of emissions for both places with the flyway in the harbor area.
And I believe
we got a location. It's like perfect.
Do we have a location in the harbor area that we've identified?
On
I've
microphone,
got-
please. Mike?
I've got one for you. I mean,
Probably about a year
My
and a half
house.
ago, we did tour with your staff various locations within the harbor.
They weren't good?
They were too small for our purposes at the time, unless something else has come up recently.
okay. Well, you know, this is something I would urge you to consult with the harbor department on. Again, as they're looking at their waterfront EIR, they're looking at rearranging parking lots and big pieces of land. And again, I think you could both claim mitigation with this one thing, with the flyway. And I think it's in their best interest. So I would urge you to get with the Harbor Department. I still think this makes a lot of sense.
Madam Chair, you want to report back on that so we can get an update?
Thank you. Thank you. I would like a report back on that so I can get an update.
Great. Okay, here's another one. Can I have your commitment that there will be monitoring stations in both Playa del Rey and Westchester for air source apportionment study? I will also ask you about Santa Monica Airport. Explain what this air source apportionment study is.
Okay.
And the monitors.
The air source apportionment study is being done to try and identify. We're doing several things. We're going to monitor primarily toxic air contaminants, not criteria pollutants, but toxic air pollutants around the airport. And then we are going to be doing
And you also have a station in Watts.
that's our noise monitoring.
Oh, I thought that was the air
No,
source.
that's our noise monitoring.
Oh, okay.
The purpose of this is to see if we can identify the portion of the toxic air pollutants that are actually attributable to LAX versus some of the other sources that are in the area. Because, again, as you know, we're in a fairly industrialized area. We've got the El Segundo refinery, we've got Scattergood, we've got Hyperion, and then we've got some fairly major traffic arteries. So we're doing a very in-depth source inventory of all the sources. We're doing modeling of all the mobile sources. And we're doing about 5 different types of actually kind of some cutting-edge modeling to try and see if we can't figure out what sources are coming from the airport, and even more importantly, the sources that are coming from the airport, what activities on the airport, so that we can try to come up with mitigation strategies that'll have the biggest bang for the buck. Because there's a lot of anecdotal information out there right now. People think stuff's coming from the airport.
Right.
But it may not be. So that's what we're trying to do. As far as a commitment, Councilman, this may be one of the few times that I have to say I'm not sure I can make that commitment at this time, and let me tell you why. We have a very extensive scientific technical working group that was put together of the EPA, California Air Resources Board, Air Quality Management District, the California Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment, as well as the FAA's Office of Energy and Environment. And the locations of these monitors are going to be determined by a pilot study that's going on right now. And we've committed a significant amount of money to this effort, but it's going to take a significant amount of money because these monitors, which will go out for a year, are very, very expensive. So we need to locate the monitors in the area where the technical working group believes that they're going to get the biggest bang for their buck as far as determining the source apportionment for all the sources.
And besides just mitigating that, are you looking to get a baseline?
Yes.
So that you will have goals in the future
Right.
to reduce that?
Yeah, that's one of the things that we're trying to do is establish what our baseline emissions are out into the community. So it's a very scientifically driven study right now, and the locations of these monitors are going to be dictated by a whole panel of PhDs that are kind of working on the advice on this.
It's very important to me that you get back to me. I want one in Westchester, and I want one in Playa del Rey. And I'm not going to accept anything but that. Let them know that. And then secondly, Mike Molina has said more than once publicly to me that we would have that support also with Santa Monica Airport, which is a reliever airport of LAX,
Right.
and that we would locate him, at least one, maybe two, there as well. And you need to work with Marty and Joan Rubin of that organization to help determine location.
And I am working with Santa Monica Airport. They have told us that they're interested
Yes.
in actually funding a monitor up near the airport.
Excellent.
So yeah.
And know this, that Senator Feinstein with the Oversight Committee on the Environment is completely aware and focused that we need to look at these air quality issues.
I'm actually sitting on the Santa Monica Airport Air Quality Study Technical Working Group. So I've been very I'm up to date, working with your office as well as Senator Boxer's and Feinstein's office on the Santa Monica issues. So,
Excellent. And make
yeah.
sure that you interact with my office with Marty Rubin from the community, who's played a major role in it.
There are letters going out. We are planning on having a workshop for all of the policy advisors. So both of your offices will get a request to the workshop. It will be comprised of most of the elected officials and representatives for the areas to let you all know what we're doing in.
When do you think you're going to have results from these air monitors?
We will have the pilot study report is due to be done in December, I believe.
As a final.
In December.
We should have it in the fall.
Right.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Yeah. And then the pilot study is basically going to lay out where the long-term one-year monitoring study will be conducted.
Excellent.
So,
Just a couple of real quick ones, too. We obviously want to see progress on a plan and strategy for following through on the aesthetic mitigations, which include landscaping in the dunes area and street lighting. My constituents are really concerned about some street lighting that they felt was part of a mitigation package historically, and they're raising that issue. What can we do about that?
let me address the landscaping in the dunes first, if I can. We engaged the services of an architect with specialties in landscape architecture to look at what we could do for the amount of money that was committed within the stipulated settlement agreement.
Right.
We can't do much. In fact, the amount of money that we spend would hardly make a dent into the aesthetics of the dunes. I have talked with Edgar from Maxine Waters' office about this, and actually I had a conversation, and I can't remember Marcia's last name, with
Marcia Hanscom.
Marcia Hanscom. And, we believe, and I'm not proposing this yet, but we believe that there would be a better use for that money in working on some more habitat restorations in the dunes area than there is on the landscape.
I'm delighted to hear you're in conversations with some really very good environmentalists there. But Karen Canner, one of the community people, is going to come up and talk about street lighting, which is an issue for us. And we'd love for you to report back after you hear the public comment on this in 60 days if any progress could be made on that.
Where we are on the street lighting is because the street lights would be off airport property. They're subject to the revenue diversion, and we have requested, the FAA's approval of that, and we have not received anything from the FAA on the street lighting. So at this point in time, we cannot spend any money
Can I get a letter
off-site.
to them from me that you would help craft with my staff? We could put a
Certainly.
little energy on that issue there with them. I'd be happy to do that. That's the
Okay.
first point.
All right. On the first one, there's also job training is under the item 1. I just wanted to, has the FAA finally approved our job training program?
Joyce Sloss, no, the FAA has not
Okay.
approved a job training program at this point in time. However, one of the things when we conceived a job training program, the coalition was very clear that they wanted us to be able to train a number of different people, some of whom, even if we had an FAA approved program, we would not be able to send through that program. People who are homeless, who have barriers to employment. So what we always considered as far as job training is concerned is to work with local agencies who are established and funded through other means to particularly address those communities. As such, we do have a job training program that is in place. We're working with the Community College District, and we're working with other community and faith-based organizations to provide job training. So far, we have referred. I apologize. I have it right here.
It's okay.
We have referred 236 people for training with 12 local training providers, and 177 people have completed the training thus far.
And is this through the Business and Job Resource Center?
That's correct.
Okay, so you've 236 people have
We've referred.
you've referred,
And then 177 have actually
received
completed
the job training.
Well, they all received it, but not everybody, completes it. Some people drop out midway.
I
that
see.
kind
So
of thing.
177 made it through.
That's correct.
And of those, how many have gotten jobs?
Well, We also refer them for job training. What we have as far as the jobs is concerned, we've referred about 1,275 clients for jobs, for 400 jobs with 42 LAWA employers, and we've confirmed that 233 have been hired. And that number is probably higher than that, but again, we do have some difficulty in terms of getting exact numbers because there is turnover with the HR
So
division.
that's kind of different than what you just said, the 177 made it through. How about of those 177?
I don't have
okay.
numbers on those.
Okay. Okay, but still, it's working, but FAA hasn't approved you to pay for it.
That's correct.
Yeah, and I think I'd like to say is what we've tried to do, and Joyce has been wonderful in this, is working within the constraints that the FAA has given us.
Yeah.
Working with other organizations
I
to
like
come
that.
up with a job training program that meets the intent of the agreement.
I love
without
that. See, I
getting
still
into
love
trouble.
this about the airport. I love it that you guys said just that. We're working within our constraints for the intent of what we were all trying to do here. We appreciate that. Let me just briefly on the schools. I know part of this item is also going into the schools. Have you considered, the possibility of hiring a consultant to develop aviation curriculum in the schools? Because that is one of the things the Harbor Department has done with their International Trade Education Partnership, and then they've got an International Trade Academy in Banning High School. So I didn't know if this was any part of your thinking in terms of the schools. Again, to kind of begin connecting kids with the potential of, what's out there in the aviation world.
Actually, we do have a couple of things that we do with the schools. Through our community relations division, we do have programs in which we have programs in the summer in which kids, junior high school kids can come in, learn about the aviation industry, talk to people at the airport, learn about the kinds of programs that are available. We also have our Gateways internship program in which high school and college students have the opportunity to work at the airport in airport jobs. And so they work with the various divisions, and sometimes they do work with the employers on the airport. That it is paid for by LAWA, and they have the opportunity again to learn about the various opportunities at the airport. Thank you. And we are looking at how we can train them better and we do send them through training again to help them understand what the opportunities are at the airport. And there's also a speakers bureau where we go to the high schools and the junior high schools to talk to them about the aviation industry and the kinds of careers that are possible. So we do have those opportunities that we're currently involved with.
Okay, good.
I'm familiar with the Orville Wright Middle School in Westchester and the program they have with aviation. It's incredible.
Okay.
Would you look into that? You'll see that as a super thing.
And you
Okay.
said
I got one more on the other two items.
Yeah, do we, and we'll just have the public comment afterwards?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do it that way. Okay.
If I could, on item number 2, just one question. As a percentage of the regional traffic, does LAX handle more or less traffic than last year? Have we got an answer on that?
I will have to defer that one to Mr. Tomchak.
Yeah.
And Mr. Tomchak, and the same question is, as a percentage of the regional traffic, does LAX handle more or less traffic than last year? And does LA Ontario? Just curious about any step-ups or step-downs.
I do not. I'm Pat Tomchuk with the Ground Transportation section of LAWA.
Yeah.
I do not have the figures for Ontario today, unfortunately. I just brought the figures for LAX.
Okay.
We do a trip generation report every year, and our peak time is August, so we collect data in August. So I have comparison between year to year from August to August. In 2007, the peak period for 11 a.m. till noon, which is our peak hour at the airport, we were slightly down, actually, from 2006. With 15,257 trips. And a trip is a trip either into or out of the airport in 2006 versus 15,077 trips for that peak hour of 11 a.m. till noon. So that constitutes all of the traffic that's generated by the airport. We count driveways at the parking lots, at the rental car shuttle locations such as Avis and Hertz. So we're gathering all and the cargo facilities as well as the central terminal area. So we're fairly flat with the traffic generated
At the moment, is Orange County still about 14%?
of 14%.
Are we? I'm sorry. I may have misunderstood. Are we talking about air traffic or ground traffic?
Ground
at
traffic.
this- Okay.
Ground
Just
traffic.
curious, though,
14%
of the air travel is from Orange County.
of the air travel.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can get you those numbers.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure we get a better understanding of that. But let me go to the third item. Okay.
Well, let me just ask on 2, 72% of LAWA's fleet vehicles are alternative fuel, according to the report. Is that electric, LNG?
It's a combination. It's CNG, LNG, electric. We actually have some biofuel hybrids. Some of our trash trucks are hybrid biofuel vehicles. So it's a combination. And then we have hybrid vehicles, and we have 5 fuel cell vehicles that run on hydrogen.
Very good. I love it that you're, obviously the vehicles you can control, that you're going in this direction. What about all the vehicles that come in and out of the airport, visitors, passengers, employees? Are you giving any kind of special, deal for people who will use alternative fuel vehicles, special parking rates? Have you done anything like that?
We have in the past for electric vehicles. We have electric charging stations. And unfortunately, as you know, the electric vehicles have pretty much died. We do have.
saw that movie.
Yeah, it was very who killed the
David
electric
Freeman
car.
was in that.
Who killed the electric
Starting
car?
to-
Yeah.
to perk
Yeah,
up.
plug-in hybrids are.
Have you thought about a
actually-
discounted parking rate? Or
We have looked into that. For the passengers, we haven't looked as much at that as we have at others. Candidly, our on-airport parking outside of the parking lot C, they're not as heavily utilized as we would like them to be from a revenue perspective. We have, with some of our other, like with our vendors and our tenants, the rental car companies, they have in their concession agreement a requirement that all of their
Right.
shuttle vans be
Right.
alternative fuel. We have, as we've reported, a hotel shuttle van program where we actually do give incentives to them to have alternative fuel vehicles as well as consolidate. We are working on a similar program right now with the off-airport parking lot operators.
Good.
That I'm sure will be before this committee because it's
Okay.
proving to be very contentious.
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah.
Quick more questions
Okay.
on item 3.
Oh, well, no, that was 2.
Are you
So-
still with 2?
Yeah, so now we're 3.
Yeah. Okay, here you go. Here's 2 of them. Can you elaborate on your progress in evaluating a hydrogen fuel cell system at LAX?
Well, as you know, we have a hydrogen on-site hydrogen generation station right now that was put in as a pilot under a joint venture between LAWA, the South Coast Air Quality Management District, and the Federal Department of Energy. Unfortunately, I believe the technology that we have has proven to be not commercially viable. However, it has it is still functional for us in that it allows us to operate our own hydrogen vehicles on site. I have talked to several of the companies, such as Clean Energy, that are actually looking at installing hydrogen fueling stations in the vicinity of LAX. We are also looking to embark on a new program for our own vehicle policy called Hythane, which is a mixture of hydrogen and methane, which actually provides almost a 90% reduction in emissions from CNG.
Golly.
So we're very optimistic about what the Hythane pilot study is going to show us. So.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Yeah, one more
Okay.
question. How many flights do we see at LAX between the hours of 12 a.m. and 6:30, and how many of those are to the east? The question, you saw that whole thing on Burbank the other day about
Yes, I
what they
did.
want to do as a curfew. Just curious what we got going there.
I will have to get you the numbers on the flights between midnight and 6 a.m.
Okay.
So
Last thing I want to tell you is we were in Washington last week as the chair was also there.
Yes.
And we met with Michael Chardoff, and we talked about the customs issue. He said he would backfill the 22 that need to be filled and give us a fresh 25. The point the mayor and I made to him was very clear that we expect, with the dollar in its situation, foreign tourist trade, as Mr. Labange's, Mr. Hollywood there, we are expecting more from overseas this spring and this summer. It's now April 23rd. Can you report back to us in a timely manner as to did they backfill the 22 slots, and where are we in the pipeline for the additional 25? As this
Yes, sir.
month becomes May and June, I'd like to know, in a sensitive way, the status as we go forward with that.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
Thank you. And Councilmember LeBon.
Yeah, and reading some of the reports,
Yes.
the report here, I wanted to ask, the investment that we make in some of this mitigation to the other cities is received well by the other cities?
Yes.
Okay, and just out of curiosity, I just wondered, Madam Chair, would it be appropriate to request that on these improvements in these other cities, this is an important request there, but I'll see if I have to repeat it twice there, is that we put a sign up, Los Angeles Airport. Do you put anything in the cities? In
No,
the
we
city?
do not. No,
You
we
don't
do
want
not.
to?
No, we would love to. I would love to have the City of Inglewood soundproofing program give credit to LAWA for the funding that we
Right,
give.
now, how do we do that?
We could, we'll.
Have we asked them yet?
No, we have not. I don't
not.
think.
Okay, good. So here's the idea, Madam Chair, if I could interrupt the important briefing that you're giving Mr. Rosendahl right now, but I'll just hold my time. So, because you inspire me, okay?
Bill?
No, you.
Oh,
Okay,
oh.
okay.
Thank
And even though you weren't listening to me,
I'm
in
sorry,
coming in
but-
and reading the reports that were here,
Yeah.
I said the investment that Los Angeles makes is significant. $12 million,
First two were done
$16 million, et cetera. In the city streets of Los Angeles, sometimes there is a proper worded sign that says another public works improvement.
Yes.
And I think it would be appropriate, let's say at Inglewood Boulevard in Manchester, at
Yes.
the appropriate designated corner by the
Kenny
Public
Hahn
Works,
thing. That's a
by the,
Kenny
well,
Hahn
God
thing.
bless your father,
That's
who was
a-
one of my heroes.
Me too.
If there be appropriate
He put
sign,
those all over, yeah.
be posted, said the Los Angeles World Airport's
Another-
Sound Reduction Program.
Another community benefit. Another
A
community
community benefit, and say,
Great idea.
and then also put a website on the bottom or whatever, so if people wanted to contact that and see that. It's a tremendous amount of work that you're doing, and listening to the
great.
drill that you get from my colleagues, which is important. It goes back to my days in school when I used to get drilled by my teachers if I did the right thing or the wrong thing. And I think that's the goal that we're trying to do, to get a good grade. I think we're getting a good grade. And also, I don't know the number, but I would like to know how many people roughly come into Los Angeles International Airport on an airplane in a plane and land on the ground. 50 million, 70
No,
million,
It's around 30 million.
30 million a year?
Yes.
That's all?
I'm sorry, yeah, that's our arrivals. We do
Well, how
about
about
60
takeoff?
million. We do about 60,
About 62.
right.
62
We
million.
do
62
62 million annual passengers, but that counts both arrivals and departures.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
Coming and going.
And we can do 78 million. That's what isn't that what we're capped at with the agreement?
But who we capped with?
We have, within the LAX specific
With the
plan,
settlement. That's
and
the-
in the
that's
settlement, we
part
have
of
a
the
gate,
settlement.
we have a cap on the number of gates that we
Let
can
me just
build.
ask the question. Is that a cap by the federal government? I mean, is
No,
it
it's this agreement, this
just a
settlement.
friendly agreement?
No,
No,
it's
it's not a-
it's a legal agreement within
What
the
if all of
city
a
general plan.
sudden the dollar takes a tank and other currencies rise, and millions of people come from around the world to take advantage of the low dollar and want to see Hollywood and the Golden Gate Bridge and drive down Highway 1 and Venice Beach?
And we are expediting the midfield satellite
Brio
concourse.
Beach.
Yes.
Right, very good.
We are
St. Vincent Thomas Bay.
expediting the midfield satellite concourse in the backside of Tibbet to make sure that we have the capacity to
Right.
serve
Right.
those passengers.
Right. And
You said that. I want to report back on the status of moving in that direction since you
Right.
just publicly announced it.
Okay.
Ms. Hahn made this comment about a year and a half ago at a press conference
Thank
at
you
LAX.
very much for
Why don't we do the
recognizing
back
that.
siding of the Bradley terminal?
Thank you, Bill Rosendahl.
It was amazing, and of course, we see the leadership of LAWA moving
Thank
in that
you.
direction
Thank
now.
you for
And that's
recognizing that.
Very good. And then the second will be the midfield terminal. We don't need to be on such a tight schedule with that
Thank
when we're doing the backside of the Tibbet.
Thank you, Bill.
Well, I just want to correct you because I love you,
did.
Bill. Well, you were on my time. I haven't given it back yet. I know you're the chair,
I am
but
the chair. I
I
can
understand
take
that. But
back
he took
whatever I
it.
want.
But he took it from me.
Yeah, you
No,
know.
no, no,
Okay,
no.
boys, knock it off.
You guys.
I had something I just wanted to say.
Go ahead.
Okay. One thing I think we should say, and I just say this because we're in the building that has the name of the person. It's Tom Bradley Terminal. I just think
doesn't like to
Tibbet.
say Tibbet.
I just want to say Tibbet sounds like a game by Yahtzee or something. And, whatever it is, Tom Bradley, that's the gateway, that's the international
That's true.
gateway. I also hope, too, that we have enough of challenge to meet that as we have this vision of trying to spread it all around. But I don't want to treat, you could be in Los Angeles County and further away from the airport and still come down through the San Fernando Valley and clog the 405 freeway, and you could be closer in another county, yet you may have that feeling.
Since you brought up a very good point about Tom Bradley, in many places in the world, they'll have the mayor and then the city council.
I just saw in
And we
San
have such a
Jose.
diverse city council that reflects the city. Is there a way in which that fits within your?
Well, okay, I'll ask the CLA to draft me a letter that I could present to the chair that
Yes.
we'll all sign as committee
Yes,
members to
yes.
say, you know what,
Mayor and city council should be
we should it would
prominently
be,
displayed in the
we
airport.
should do that, or we should talk to whatever it is.
Yeah, I just
mean,
saw it in San Jose. It looked very good. It looked very welcoming. It had,
yeah.
there was women, there was people
Right.
of color. It was very
Right.
welcoming.
Right. So I agree.
Thank you. Anything else?
Okay. No, I just think it's important to tell people what you're doing.
Thank you.
And that's why these other cities,
I think that's a
because
great idea.
sometimes I go to other cities, they don't even, we treat 27 cities waste in our Hyperion sewer treatment plant. And I go back to their cities and they don't realize,
Right.
that. And there's another way. We got to continue to tell people what we do in the right, proper way. So work with the public works engineer through your local contacts. If we're laying LA airport money in their community, that's great. Let's make sure we tell them so the motorists see it.
Yes,
as
the
well.
Hyperion should have one of those, signs like a billion hamburgers, a billion gallons of waste we are treating, and it keeps changing. That's a great idea. Thank you, Councilmember LaBonge. And thank you, Councilmember Rosendahl, for mentioning that. It was true. When we stood there and broke ground on the $800 million renovation of the Tom Bradley International Terminal, I said we should be putting contact gates as a part of this renovation, because we need to send the message to the airline industry that we are serious about accommodating particularly the next generation of aircraft, and I'm pleased to see the airport moving in that direction and having heard me and listened to me and felt that was right. Okay,
She's a
thank you
true
very
leader.
much. Thank you, Bill, for recognizing that. We have some wonderful members of the public now who would like to comment, and thank you. We love what you're doing. We really admire what you're doing. And
Karen
Did we
Cantor
vote on
says
it?
something I didn't say. I want you to talk with her
Huh?
afterwards,
Did we
okay?
vote on it?
not yet. We have our public comment. We have public comment first. Karen Cantor, Denny Schneider, I believe is not here anymore. Terry Marcellus. He's also there. Arnold Sachs. Okay, the two of
Seats
you.
up here. Take
Okay, Karen and Arnold, come on up. And Karen, I think you had 1 and 2, and Arnold, you have 2, and general public comment. Why don't you?
I wasn't sure about which
That's
one.
fine.
Let me just
Come up
review.
and.
I might say, Madam Chair, that Karen Cantor pulled a community meeting together. She had 200 or 300 people from Westchester. It was an amazing mix of community people, totally focused on the airport.
I love to see communities organizing.
Well, actually, I have to correct our councilman just a little bit. The group that we pulled together was the Playa del Rey group,
Okay.
who really has not a chance to. It's our time to be able to come together.
Okay.
In terms of when you're talking about the $3 million, the landscaping plan, the article that I've given you is something that came from an LA Times article having to do with the last time that the airport expanded. There was a tremendous destruction. There were actually 4,000 homes that were destroyed in the Playa del Rey area. The area that we're talking about, the $3 million at, is exactly that period. And I think that if you look at that article, when a community has suffered the kind of loss that we're still looking at those streets
Yeah.
25 years later, it's painful. It looks like a scar at any point. And I have to say, frankly, $3 million can't take care of a half of a mile of getting rid of those streets that are there. What am I missing?
You want to answer?
Okay.
You should talk to the chair.
Okay.
Yeah, why don't you finish that, and then we'll get
That was
and we'll
my-
get a response to that.
Okay, I appreciate
So
that.
you would like to see those streets
We would like to see those
and-
streets gone.
Yeah.
Yes, because
It is
that's-
kind of weird when you see that. It just has this feeling of
It has a terrible feeling about
Yeah.
it. And then to make it worse is that was part of the heart of the Playa del Rey community.
Yeah.
And there's not even a sign. It's called the El, it's the home of the El Segundo blue butterfly.
Right.
I mean, as I say, that was a very important part of our history.
That's true.
So
Thank you, Karen.
I would before the money be given to another part of Playa, I would really like to see.
I appreciate you bringing that up. Okay.
That's the first thing. The second thing on the streetlights, the $1 million on streetlights, my understanding of the settlement had to do with the fact that there had to be a nexus for that it was an air safety issue, or that it was connected with the airport. That nexus has already been established. The street of Napoleon, which is in that area, has LAWA already came in, already put in the lights that we're talking about. And the problem is a real safety issue is because we are so close to the airport, somebody can sit with a shoulder-mounted rocket launcher, nail one of the planes, and we can't see them because there are no street lights up there. It is dark, it is dangerous, and I believe that's what the settlement was calling for.
Okay.
That $1 million settlement.
Okay,
So-
good. Thanks, Karen. Okay, why don't we take Arnold and then let you guys respond? Arnold.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. On item number 2, had a comment to make. Several things you can count on. El Nino will make prices rise. Lack of El Nino will make prices rise. Next quarter, the petroleum companies will record record profits, but none of it will be due to the price of gas. And holiday traffic at LAX. Arrive 3 hours early, 4 hours early, arrive a week early. And so they're mitigating monitoring, and I'm just curious to know when will they get around to doing something about the area outside the actual entrance to LAX, the feeder roads that, because of the increase in passenger traffic, bear the brunt of all the vehicles that arrive at the airport. And it would be nice to know that they were taking an interest in controlling that.
Thank you.
That's item number 2.
Thank you.
Would you like them to respond and let me do my public comment, or would you like me to do my
Why don't you go ahead and do your public comment and then let him respond?
Okay, public comment. Lots of public comment. You missed a heck of a great meeting on Monday at LAWA.
I watched it on TV. I watched the whole meeting.
And you would know that your groundbreaking expansion went from approximately $2 billion to $5 billion. Nothing was mentioned about that. I'm sorry that Councilman Rosendahl left because they're approximately spending, they put on hold 2 contracts for approximately $81 million for architectural work. With the contract that the City Council passed a couple years ago for Clark McCarthy, which was about $46 million, and the contract for Dim Jim, which is even higher than all those 2 combined, they're actually spending more on contracts than it would cost to extend the Green Line to the airport. That's a lot of money for contracts. American Airlines, you touched on that. I think they should get a wording or letter from the City Council regarding their atrocious behavior with all the cancellations. They're not the only airline they can't be the only airline that flies that aircraft, and yet nobody else canceled all their flights, caused the havoc that they did. And for what was the purpose? I also mentioned at the meeting that they should be charged for any excess cost that was incurred to handle the overflow crowds by LAWA personnel.
Okay, thank you. Can you wrap it up, Arnold?
Yeah, well, 2 items, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's right. I'll give you a couple seconds.
I mentioned at the airport meeting about an article in the newspaper regarding FAA updates. You mentioned FAA.
Yes.
It seems that the policy is not in effect. It is in effect. We don't know. I don't know. Because there was an incursion, the FAA incursion. A week later, there was an incursion. They said that the instructions had been given. The pilot disobeyed the instructions. But when I spoke about it at the meeting, they said the policy wasn't in effect. And then you'll like to note that by the time they come around for their next meeting, there will be an update on the public commentary period, which they're moving to eliminate or reduce. And finally,
Really?
well, because some people are putting too many cards in.
I hope they don't mean you.
Well, I think they do.
Never.
And then, just to change the subject, this is another sore point, and this is at you.
Okay.
I'm still
Time's
waiting.
up.
Harbor.
What do you do when
Yeah.
the meter runs out?
Yeah.
I,
Meter runs out.
I put a
Yeah.
bag over it.
All right, we don't hear.
Okay,
Harbor update for the $90 million for the, I forgot, see how bad
I'm
this is?
sorry.
The security screening device that
Yes.
they canceled?
No, you're right. Got it.
3 months now.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Arnold.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, always. We appreciate your public comments. Okay, would Lala like to come back up and respond to the landscaping and the streets and the lighting?
The problem with the streets is the streets are in, as she said, it's at what we call the El Segundo Dunes area, which is a sensitive habitat. We are restricted by both Fish and Game and by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service as to the equipment that we can bring into that area. So
Really?
Yeah.
So to even tear up
To
the
even
streets?
tear up the streets. In fact, the Fish and Wildlife Service would prefer that we not touch the streets,
Right.
because their concern is that we'll do more damage to the habitat through the street removal.
Would you just get a letter from them so you could share with the community? Because I understand the community's frustration, but I do understand habitat that an old street would maybe make a nice place for the spawning of
Well,
a
it-
butterfly, because of the cavity of the concrete, et cetera. So,
It's more the disruption to the habitat from removing the street, and that makes it a very labor-intensive and consequently very expensive undertaking. So,
And is there a way to in some way, give some respect and dignity to the old neighborhood of Playa del Rey? Is there some way to, memorialize that was kind of the heart of Playa del Rey, as
there's-
opposed to just the home of the blue butterfly?
we can take that as an action item.
Yeah, just and certainly work with Karen on what might be
Certainly.
something to forever remember that, because certainly that was a great neighborhood, a great community, and I think it's worth being respected as opposed to just the home of the blue butterfly. Okay, something like that might be interesting to memorialize it.
why don't you suggest that to your councilman, too? We'll mention it in council. That's
right.
a good idea.
But let's all look at that. Okay, and the lighting and as it relates to being a security issue, I share that with Karen.
I will take that on as an action item
Okay.
and talk to Director Butts, our head of security.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe that becomes the nexus.
Yeah.
Security. Okay.
Right.
Because I share that
Yeah.
concern. Thank you very much. So we are noting and filing all three of these
All three?
items.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
Okay.
So ordered.
So ordered. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, Karen. Hey, would you pass these over to John?
Thank you very much. That's a good talk. Seeing council.
Good job, John. How do you like our committee?
Good.
It's fun,
I
huh?
expected a bigger turnout, though.
Sometimes this place is packed.
Yeah.
Sometimes this place is packed.
Any offsites planned?
Huh?
Any offsites coming up?
No, but we haven't really done an offsite.
We need a tour of the harbor.
Okay, we'll have
Can I bring
a
my son?
yes, of course. We'll give you the VIP tour.